Section 6.4, we're going to be solving equations containing rational expressions. The first thing we want to do is talk about our domain. In this one, our domain has no limitations, so it's going to be all real numbers. Okay. After that, we are looking for a least common denominator. So our least common denominator for number 1 is a 6. So we multiply everything by a 6 so we can get rid of all the fractions. Divide by 6, divide by 6. We're left with 5x. When I divide by 2, I'm going to get a 3, so I have 3 times 1 is 3. Divide by 3, and I have 2 times x is 2x. Now I'm just continuing to solve the equation. And so I get 3 is equal to negative 3x. Divide both sides by negative 3, and we get negative 1 is equal to x. And we said that we can check our answer by plugging negative 1 back in everywhere x is at in the original problem and solving to see if we get a true statement. So if you'd like to do that, you may do that as well. And number 2, the first thing we want to work with is our domain. We have to set this not equal to 0, so our domain is going to be x cannot equal 0. And then we also want to set this one not equal to 0 and solve, so we have 2x cannot equal to 0. So basically, since these are the same, our domain is just simply x cannot equal 0. Okay, so we want to keep this in mind. Next, when we find a common denominator, it's going to be 2x. So if we multiply everything, all the terms in the equation by 2x and simplify, this x cancels this x, and I get 2 times 5 is 10. 2x cancels 2x, and I get minus, now put this in parentheses, this binomial in parentheses. Don't forget that's important. So divide by 2 and you're going to get 7x. Now we come back, we distribute to that parenthesis, that's why it was so important. And now we are solving, so we're going to simplify over here. 10 minus 6 is 4. Add 3x to both sides. So we have 4 is equal to 10x, divide both sides by 10, and we simplify that fraction to be 2/5. We check with our domain, and as long as it's not equal to 0, then this is our solution to our problem. Okay, problem number 3, the first thing is we're going to do our domain. So we take our denominator and set it not equal to 0. They're the same, since the denominators are same. I only have to do this one time. So x cannot equal 3. Now I'm going to find a common denominator, which is the same for both of them, so that's easy. This cancels this, and we get x plus 5 equals, when this side cancels this side, we get 2 times x plus 1. We're going to simplify, distribute here, you get 2x plus 2. Subtract x from both sides. 5 equals x plus 2. Now subtract 2. And so 3 is equal to x. Well, my answer is 3, my solution is 3, but my domain says x cannot equal 3. And since that's my it excludes that answer, this is a no solution. So our answer is no solution. Okay, my next problem, we're going to work with our domain. In our domain, I set my first denominator, x minus 4, set it not equal to 0. Now if I look at this and solve it, let me go ahead and solve this. So then I get x cannot equal 4. Okay, now if I look at this and if I actually factored this out, difference of perfect squares, this is really x minus 4, x plus 4. Factored form. If I see x minus 4 is there and the x plus 4 is there, so I really only have left to do x plus 4 is not equal to 0 and solve it. So then I have x is not equal to negative 4. So now all of these have been used in my denominator. So here's my two in my domain. Here's my two restrictions. Now I'm going to solve it. I'm going to find the least common denominator, which if you see is this one, the factored form of this. I'm going to use the factored form to multiply everything by x minus 4, x plus 4. So I'm going to do that for all of them. Okay, to cancel the x minus 4, I'm left with 2x times x plus 4. Here, this whole thing cancels this whole thing, so I'm left with plus 10 minus 5x. Then x plus 4, I'm left with x times x minus 4. Distribute 2x squared plus 8x plus 10 minus 5x equals x squared minus 4x. Now I'm going to add like terms. 8 minus 5 is 3x. I want to get 0 on the right, so I'm going to move this over. I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides. That goes away, and then I'm going to move this to the other side, so I'm going to add 4x to both sides, so I'm left with x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 0. Now I want to use my rooftop method. What multiplies to give me 10, what's going to add to give me 7. Multiplies to give me 10, adds to give me 7. The factors are going to be 2 and 5, so it's going to be x over 2, x over 5, that's going to be x plus 2 times x plus 5. So I'll come back and I'll put that over here, x plus 2, x plus 5 equals 0. I set each one of these, this equal to 0, and solve. So x equals negative 2. And then I set x plus 5 equal to 0 and solve. Subtract 5. And we get x equals negative 5. So I check my solutions and I make sure they're not up here in the domain, so it's not restricted in the domain. So my two answers are going to be x equals negative 2 and x equals negative 5.